Alright, so what's up you guys, it's your boy Danchou, and for today we will be discussing the row 4 classes that are available to your main character and my personal recommendation on which to unlock first and give my reasoning why as well. The row 4 classes themselves are generally the most used classes in Granblue Fantasy, meaning that knowing about these classes in advance and knowing what they are able to do for you can be valuable information for you as a player. With this you can give yourself an advantage by knowing what you're doing ahead of time. It also saves time as you won't have to unlock every single one of them and figure out which classes work for you in the long run. And for that reason alone, I decided to make a video on these classes and the recommendations on them, so once you finish this video you know what to go for and why. Now right before we dig into this video, I just wanted to say that if you do enjoy Granblue Fantasy or Granblue Fantasy Versus content, then you might want to consider hitting that sub button, as I do cover both games and try to keep you guys updated with everything as fast as possible surrounding these games, so any support will be greatly appreciated. Now with all the typical YouTuber talk out the way, let's get into the video. So for the first class that we will be discussing on today's video, it will be none other than the Lumberjack class. Now this is the class that just works and is definitely one of my personal highly recommended classes without a single shred of hesitation. This class is amazingly well rounded and it does pretty much everything you would want the class for you to do, and that all in one package. And to get more in depth on why this class is so good, we can start off with the fact that it got the option to debuff your enemies for both attack and defense down, which you can stack whilst you still have the ability to get random buffs on top of this by using the class's own main skill, which will be Woodcutter's Song. Woodcutter's Song has a 4-way option of situations where the skill activates additional buffs depending on which trigger gets activated, and if you get lucky you can land a rare effect instead, buffing yourself even more than you bargained for. The great thing about this skill is that regardless of what effect it triggers, it pretty much is always worth getting, with perhaps the only outcome that is not as favorable being the blinded debuff that triggers after an enemy uses a special attack. Another great option made available by using Woodcutter's Song is that you can usually cap the attack and defense debuff limit, which is capped at 50% when you combine it with Miserable Mist. The class also has the ability to put out good damage by having the availability to get both critical rate up and keen buffs up by using the skill Laughing Logger. The way Laughing Logger works is for each cast that you do, you activate a different buff. For the first cast you will do 400% elemental damage to your enemy, but it will also give you a 30% critical rate buff. For the second cast you will gain the buff Keen, which as I said gives supplemental damage to critical hits. And at the third cast you will receive a 15% damage cap up buff, which means that the maximum amount of damage that we can deal per hit will be boosted by a total of 15%. And it doesn't stop quite there yet, as this class also provides good sustainability by having the option to heal, clear debuffs, and being able to give heal to the whole party, which means that you are able to nullify debuffs for everyone for one time. This is all done by using the skill Dappled Sunlight. Dappled Sunlight is a pretty straightforward skill to use that helps a lot with survivability and also works with the multiple cast system, where the first cast restores 10% health of all your allies' HP, the second cast removes 1 debuff from all your allies, and for the third cast all your allies gain heal, which means that all your debuffs will be nullified for one time onwards. All in all 3 of these skills have their uses, but one skill tends to be the most valuable, which will be Leaf Burning. Now what Leaf Burning does is that for every turn it's in effect, it gives you a shield worth of 4k damage. It also boosts all allies' attack and defense by 4%, which you can stack up all the way to a total of 20%. On top of that, it also boosts your charge bar by 10% as you go. Now what makes it special is that these buffs can be removed and the effects will only end when your shield hits 0, meaning that this skill will be valuable to you as long as the shield can be maintained for a couple of turns so you can cast the skill again and repeat the cycle. This class altogether does take some time to ramp up, and the additional animations for Woodcutter's Song does take some time, so it may not be the best in short battles if that is something that you find important. But it's a great class for people who are looking for more sustainability, or for those who are a bit more advanced but are still looking for a reliable class to use with the full auto function. Now my personal recommendations for skills that you should pick whilst using this class would go out to Leaf Burning, Laughing Logger if you're going for a more offensive route, or pick Dappled Sunlight to give yourself some more sustainability if you need it. And this will be it for the Lumberjack class, which means that we are moving over to the second class of today's video, which will be none other than Chrysor. Now with this class you are quite literally the knight in shining armor. Chrysor is a powerful class that focuses on offense and also allows parties centered around charge attacks to dish out tremendous damage on the very first turn. This is because its skills is focused on charge attack reactivation, with the ability to equip 2 swords or katanas due to the auxiliary weapon system, you can have 2 charge attack effects at once by having your main hand weapon's charge attack effect and your auxiliary weapon charge attack effect trigger in the same turn. It's a very good class to burst out damage as quick as possible, and it's often used by higher level players to collect honors and raids fast by doing big damage numbers in 1 or 2 turns. However, this class does require you to have the gladiator class from row 3 unlocked and leveled all the way to level 20 before you can unlock Chrysor itself. So let's talk a little bit more about the unique mechanic that this class has to offer, as this plays a huge role in using this class correctly and getting the damage out of it that you want. Auxiliary weapons are a unique mechanic to both the gladiator class and Chrysor. By equipping auxiliary weapons, you can improve certain skills, but sometimes it's also even required to have the skills to begin with. Now let's say if you really want, then you can use this class without an auxiliary weapon, but its damage will drastically fall without one, making it hard to justify the use of this class. There are a total of 3 simple requirements to equipping an auxiliary weapon, and those are as follows. The auxiliary weapon must be set at the top leftmost corner of the weapon grid. The auxiliary weapon can only be a sword or katana, and at last, the auxiliary weapon must have the same element as your main hand weapon. Other than these 3 requirements, you are free to go and use whatever weapon is available to you. However, keep in mind that because of the fact that they are a part of the grid instead of an actual main hand, weapon skills that only take effect when equipped as main hands will not work. So now that we know how the special mechanic to this class works, we can look more into the skills that the class brings to the table and which skills to take. First, we have the base skill of the class itself, which will be Blade Swap 2. Blade Swap 2 switches the next charge attack to the auxiliary weapon's charge attack, and if used with dual arts, the auxiliary weapon's charge attack will activate twice. Now with this skill being able to switch between charge attacks, it's very helpful if the auxiliary weapon has a useful charge attack effect to make the most out of this skill. The skill itself also gives a boost to charge attack specs for greater damage altogether. Then we can move over to the other extended mastery skills that this class has to offer. Chrysor has a total of 3 skills, but in this case 2 skills out of the 3 are way more significant than the other, and just for the sake of knowledge I will briefly explain why. Chrysor has the skill Diptych to its availability, and what it does is give you a 20% bonus damage buff for 2 turns. It will also give you a double strike buff as well, which allows you to attack twice for 2 turns. Compared to the other skills that we are about to discuss, this is just extremely lackluster, and if I'm being honest, it's not worth using at all, so keep in mind that this is a skill that you definitely don't want to equip when using this class. Now that we know which skill not to take, we can finally look into the skills that you do want to take along with you, and the very first skill is definitely something that you want to use, which is called Dual Arts. And Dual Arts is the cornerstone of Chrysor teams. By receiving the charge attack reactivation buff, it makes it so that the main character uses their charge attack twice in 1 turn. The auxiliary weapon's charge attack is guaranteed to activate on the second attack. This buff also lasts for 2 turns, which means that if the main character can reach 100% charge bar with the turn immediately after, the auxiliary weapon's charge attack is guaranteed to activate on the second attack, and this buff will last for 2 turns, which means that if the main character can reach 100% charge bar the turn immediately after, they can make use of it again to put out huge burst damage for 2 turns straight. Then for the second skill we have Aurum Flow, and this skill is another must-have skill for Chrysor burst teams that are looking to do big damage in a short amount of time. With an auxiliary weapon, it instantly fills the main character's charge bar by 40%, and without an auxiliary weapon, you only gain the charge bar gain up effect. With the 40% boost in mind, it becomes an invaluable charge attack enabler. On its own, it also deals respectable damage, especially so when you have a skill damage cap buff running when you use it. So I think by the skills alone, you can kinda tell what this class is made for, and that is for that sweet high-speed damage gaming that gets enabled by how this class works. And even if you aren't ready to be speedrunning these raids with high damage, you can still use this class when you want a strong and reliable class that cuts its way through enemies rather fast. Now the must-have equipped skills for this class will be Dual Arts and Aurum Flow, so I highly recommend using these two, as without these 2 skills you're really not doing the class itself any justice when using it, and it would defeat the whole point of using the class itself. So make sure to set those 2 up and be ready to do big damage in a short amount of time for that true speedrunning experience. Now with the Chrysor class discussed, we have reached the last class that I want to discuss on today's video, which will be none other than Berserker. Now the Berserker class is a very straightforward offense based class that allows people who just got around to unlocking Row 4 classes to feel impact right away without having to rely on too many factors outside of unlocking the class itself. Even as a less equipped player, you will notice that you will be ramping up your damage output in no time when using this class, as that is what the Berserker skill set allows you to do. The class itself uses swords and axes as its main hand weapons. There will be a wide variety of good main hands available to use, and at the same time being more accessible for those who don't have too many weapons at their disposal yet. Though given that the Berserker class is able to put out more charge attacks than other classes when used correctly, weapons with a stronger charge attack effect should be prioritized, as that will be the most benefiting to you. Now that we are aware of the essence of this class, which is putting out damage, we can take a look at the skills for this class that makes all the magic happen. So for its base skill, we have Full Arsenal 3. Once this skill is activated, you gain an instant full charge bar, whilst also receiving a 50% attack up buff along with a 30% chain burst damage buff, making it so that by using this skill alone, you're able to dish out quite some big damaging numbers. Then we have the other extended mastery skills, which I will explain one for one, and we will start with the skill Armor Break 2. Now this skill is a very simple skill, as it deals elemental damage to a single enemy, but it also inflicts a 25% defense down debuff as well. This skill is mostly justified when you are trying to solo content, as this skill will go hand in hand with skills like Miserable Mist or Rain of Arrows 3, so you can aim for capping out the defense debuff limit on your enemies. Moving over to another skill, and this skill goes by the name of Rage IV. Now Rage IV is a pretty interesting skill, as once you cast this skill, all parties in the raid gain 40% attack up, whilst also gaining a 5% damage cap up buff to go along with it. It's a trademark skill that comes along with the Berserker class, and it's also one of the main factors on how this class dishes out damage so easily. Now this skill does cost you 30% of your charge bar to use, so remember to manage this correctly when you are using the skill like Full Arsenal that charges up your bar completely, so you avoid wasting charge bar when you can. Most people cast this skill right away and follow it up with a Full Arsenal, so no meter is wasted in the process, and that is all there is to it to the skill Rage IV. Rampage 2 is a skill that gives you guaranteed double attacks and a 50% triple attack up boost at the same time, but this comes in at the cost of inflicting yourself a debuff that takes down your defense by 30%. All things considered, this skill is not recommended due to the fact that it reduces your own defense, while the boost you get from it can easily be replaced with support buffs from other characters or charge attack effects, so inflicting yourself a 30% defense down debuff for something that can be obtained quite easily by any other means really isn't that ideal. Therefore, it's definitely not recommended to pick this skill when picking out the skills that you want to use when playing the Berserker class. And at last on the skill list, we have the skill Ulfadin. Ulfadin is an especially strong skill when used correctly, as it provides large unique bonuses to attack and defense, which come up to a total of 50%. It also gives you a 30% bonus damage buff, and last but not least, also gives you guaranteed triple attacks when the skill is casted. You should however take note that it locks away your main character's own skills when you use this skill, so make sure to use any other skills that you might need or want to use before using Ulfadin. The recommended skills that you should take with you when using the Berserker class will be Rage IV, then take Armor Break 2, and at last Ulfadin for max damage output. And on that note, we've come to the end of today's video about my personal Row 4 class recommendations that you should unlock as fast as possible. I hope those who are still listening to me this far into the video have learned a lot about these classes and now know what to go for and why to go for them when they're able to unlock Row 4 classes respectively. This type of information helped me quite a bit when I was still starting out myself, so hopefully you guys will find this information I gave today just as helpful. And if you guys feel like you want more videos based on beginner tips and guides, then I'll gladly make some more videos for beginners, so let me know in the comments down below if that is of any interest as well. Now if you guys want more help from me directly, or just feel like joining a place where you can meet more Granblue Fantasy players to talk about the game and have fun, then I do recommend joining my Discord, which I'll provide the link for down below in the pinned comment. We are really close to the number of 400 unique members as I record this video, so thank you guys for all the support on Discord, and hopefully I'll see some more of you right there just in time for the anniversary. So that was it for today guys, it was your boy Danchou, stay healthy, stay blessed, and I'm out. Peace.